I want you to picture a scene. It is 6:47 in the morning.
Okay.
We're in Hyderabad, and we're in the master bedroom of a man named Rajesh. He lives in this beautiful 90 lakh rupee apartment.
High up, right?
Yeah, high up. If he looks out his window, he sees the financial district. It's glittering, glass and steel reaching for the clouds.
It's a powerful image.
Honestly, if you took a photo, it looks like the future. It looks like India has fully, arrived on the world stage.
The Viksit Bharat, or developed India dream, right there in concrete and glass. But then, just 5 minutes later, at 6:52 a.m., that whole illusion just shatters.
Reality hits hard. The water alarm buzzes, and not because the tank is full, but because the private tanker is delayed again.
Ah.
And in the next room, his 8-year-old daughter, Ananya, she's coughing. She's waking up coughing because the air quality index, the AQI, is hitting 287.
Which, just to be clear for everyone listening, that's solidly in the hazardous category.
Yeah.
That is not just bad air, that is actively damaging to the lungs.
Exactly. So Rajesh is stressed before he's even had his coffee. He picks up his phone, checks his bank app, and just sees the auto debits hitting.
The morning bill pay ritual.
$15,000 for school fees, $8,000 for health insurance, $2,500 for the water tanker.
And this brings us to the crux of the issue we're talking about today. Rajesh, he paid 47,000 rupees in taxes last year. He did his part.
He paid into the system.
He did, to build the nation. But looking at his bank statement at 7 in the morning, it feels like he's just paying rent to survive in it.
So today on the Deep Dive, we are unpacking a fascinating and, frankly, a bit of a provocative document. It's called the Dharmic Development Index, a citizen's manifesto.
And it argues that what Rajesh is experiencing, that huge disconnect between the glittering skyline and the coughing child, isn't just bad luck.
It's not just growing pains.
No, it is a budget design failure.
It's a heavy topic, but we're going to make it practical. We're going to look at 3 main things today.
First, we'll explore this concept the manifesto calls the survival tax, the reason you feel like you're paying twice for everything.
Then we'll look at the instruction manual we apparently forgot to read.
Some really interesting ancient Indian solutions to these very modern problems.
And finally, we'll discuss a proposal for a completely new way to measure success, something that goes way beyond just GDP.
Let's do it.
So let's get right into it. The survival tax. When I read this section, I actually laughed out loud, but it was, one of those painful laughs.
I know the kind.
It mentions that economists have this very polite, very academic term for all the extra money we spend on basics. They call them private coping mechanisms.
Which is a very sterile way of saying paying out of your own pocket for things the government was supposed to provide in the first place.
Right, private coping mechanisms. It sounds like something you'd discuss in therapy. But the manifesto, it just calls it what it is, the survival tax.
Let's break down the math here because the numbers are, well, they're staggering when you see them all in one place.
They really are.
The source material builds a really detailed financial profile for a typical middle-class family. Let's say they're earning about 18 lakh rupees a year.
Okay.
Now, on paper, about 8% of that goes to official direct taxes.
That seems reasonable, right? You look at that and think, okay, that's fair.
It seems fair. But then the manifesto calculates the cost of compensating for government failure.
And this is where it gets really interesting. We're not talking about buying luxury goods here, not vacations or fancy cars.
No, we're talking about the absolute basics of human survival.
Like what?
Okay, let's look at the line items. Public education is theoretically available. It exists. But most middle-class families, like Rajesh's, they opt for private school fees because of quality concerns.
Of course.
That's estimated at 1.8 lakh rupees a year per child. Then you have clean drinking water between the tankers and the RO purifiers.
Because the tap water just isn't potable.
Exactly. That's another 30,000 rupees.
And don't forget the air. This one really gets me.
Right. Fresh air should be the ultimate free public good. But to breathe safely in a metro city today, you're buying purifiers for the home, maybe the car, replacing filters.
It is up.
That's estimated at 25,000 rupees. Then reliable electricity. The grid fluctuates, you need an inverter. Batteries, that's another 18,000.
And public transport.
It's often unsafe or just severely overcrowded, so you buy a second vehicle, you pay for fuel.
Yeah.
And that's over 2 lakh rupees right there.
So when you add all of that up, when you tally the cost of just coping.
The manifesto calculates a survival tax of 5 lakh 65,000 rupees a year.
Wow.
which means 31% of that family's income is going just toward compensating for things that, in a fully developed system, would be public goods, paid for by their taxes.
31%. That is a massive chunk of change. That's a down payment on a house every few years just vanished into thin air, literally.
And here is the punchline from the source that really stuck with me. It says, "You're not living in a developed city. You're surviving an expensive simulation of one."
Oof, an expensive simulation. That hits home. It feels like you're paying a premium subscription fee for a service that is constantly buffering.
Constantly. But surely, the question is why? We see the headlines. The finance minister talks about record capital expenditure, new highways, new metros. We see the construction. So where is the money going?
That's the question.
The manifesto argues it's a matter of prioritization. It points out that social sector spending, so education, health, welfare, has dropped to about 2.8% of GDP.
That feels low.
And urban infrastructure gets just a fraction of what it needs to actually function. The critique here is that the budget rewards what looks good in photographs.
Ribbon-cutting ceremony.
Exactly. Flyovers, glass buildings, expressways, these are very visible. They make for great campaign posters.
Sure.
But the budget punishes or ignores the things that save lives quietly. Footpaths, staffing for primary health centers, teacher training, planting trees.
You can't really take a glamorous photo of a sewage treatment plant working correctly.
You can't. Or a teacher getting better training. But those are the things that determine whether Rajesh has a good morning or a bad one.
And the result is this paradox where we're getting richer on paper, our GDP is climbing, we're the 5th largest economy, but maybe we aren't feeling better. The source mentions India ranking 118th in the World Happiness Report.
With a life satisfaction score of just 4.4 out of 10, that is the disconnect. We have the hardware of a major power, the rockets, the skyscrapers. But the software of a daily living is, well, it's glitching.
Now, it would be easy to think this is just a city problem, that this is just Rajesh and his high-rise complaining about traffic and air filters.
Right.
But the manifesto takes a sharp turn here. It zooms out. It connects Rajesh to his uncle, Ramesh, who lives in a village 400 kilometers away.
This is a crucial connection. We often treat urban and rural India as two separate worlds with separate problems. We have agricultural policy and urban policy.
But this deep dive suggests they are two symptoms of the exact same broken system. So tell us about Ramesh. He's a farmer. He's not buying air purifiers. What is his survival tax?
His tax is hidden in the soil. For over 20 years, the prevailing wisdom handed down to farmers like Ramesh was simple. Use more urea, get more yield.
And the government subsidies made urea incredibly cheap, so he used it.
It seemed like the smart economic decision.
And initially, that probably worked, right? That was the whole Green Revolution promise.
Initially, yes. But biology has its limits. You can't cheat nature forever. The source highlights a, frankly, terrifying statistic about the soil balance.
Uh-oh.
In agricultural science, there's an ideal ratio of nutrients in the soil, nitrogen to phosphorus to potassium.
Oh.
It should be 4.2.1. That's like the healthy diet for the earth.
Okay, 4.2.1, and what is it now?
Because of how subsidies and policies have skewed behavior toward using cheap urea, the actual ratio in many places is now 8.3.1.
That sounds chemical. It sounds unbalanced. What does that actually mean for the dirt?
It means the soil is exhausted. It's like feeding a human only sugar and caffeine. You might get a burst of energy, a high yield, but eventually the body crashes.
Wow.
Nearly 30% of India's land area is now classified as degraded. Soil organic carbon, which is basically the fertility of the earth, is just disappearing. The land is turning to dust.
And Ramesh is dealing with the fallout of that crash.
He is. He's dealing with what they call the yield trap. Every kilogram of fertilizer he buys produces less grain than it did 15 years ago because the soil is dead.
So he's running faster just to stay in the same place?
Exactly. Plus,
Oh.
he's dealing with counterfeit seeds, seeds that don't even germinate, and taking high-interest loans just to survive the season.
Okay, so Ramesh is suffering. But how does this loop back to Rajesh in the city? Why should the guy in the glass tower care about the nitrogen ratio?
It loops back to the breakfast table, the wheat Rajesh is eating. It costs 45 rupees a kilogram, which is expensive.
Right.
But because of that soil degradation, it holds half the nutrition it used to. The zinc, the iron, the protein content is lower.
So he's paying double the price for half the health value.
That connects the dots perfectly. The city pays with its lungs and wallet. The village pays with its land and debt.
It's a closed loop.
They aren't separate issues. They're both victims of a development model that values extraction over sustainability.
So we have a diagnosis. The system is stressed. But this manifesto, it doesn't just complain. It claims we're ignoring a solution that's been right under our noses. It says we're trying to solve 21st century problems with 20th century Western solutions while sitting on a, quote, 5,000-year-old instruction manual.
I know. Hearing ancient wisdom in a policy discussion can sometimes sound a bit um, abstract or like nostalgia.
Like we're just glorifying the past.
Exactly. But the source emphasizes this isn't about going back in time. It's about beta-tested, evidence-based policy.
Beta tested for a few millennia. That's a good way to put it. Let's unpack that. What are the specific comparisons it makes?
Okay, take water management. The modern approach, the 20th century engineering approach, is to build massive dams or pipe water from hundreds of kilometers away.
Centralized, expensive, energy intensive.
Very. Or, worst case, relying on those private tankers we talked about. The ancient system relied on temple tanks and Stepwell's decentralized watershed management.
Which captures the rain where it falls.
Right. Catch the rain where it falls.
Yeah.
And modern hydrology is now telling us that for a monsoon climate like India's, that is actually the most efficient way to manage the water table.
It recharges the groundwater.
It does. It prevents flooding. It's not just old, it's smart engineering.
Then look at urban heat. We build concrete boxes and then blast air conditioning, which just pumps hot air out into the street, creating these heat islands.
And the ancient manual prioritized sacred groves, protecting microforests that are integrated into the living space.
Natural air conditioners.
Exactly. They act as carbon sinks, and the temperature difference near a grove can be significant.
It also touches on governance.
Yes, we have these massive top-down schemes where decisions are made in Delhi for a village thousands of miles away. The ancient model was the Gram Sabha, the village councils.
Participatory governance.
The argument is that ancient India wasn't underdeveloped. It was developed differently around principles of, regenerative agriculture and well-being that modern science is only just now rediscovering.
It mentions the concept of dharma, artha, kama, moksha versus our obsession with GDP.
And that's the philosophical core. GDP measures economic activity. It doesn't care if that activity is beneficial or harmful. If you cut down a forest and sell the timber, GDP goes up.
If you get sick from pollution and pay a hospital bill, GDP goes up.
Right. The ancient framework was about balance. Artha wealth was just one pillar. It had to be balanced with the dharma duty or righteousness and kama pleasure or desire. You couldn't just pursue wealth at the expense of everything else.
So if we take this balance idea seriously, how do we measure it today? Because you can't manage what you don't measure. And the manifesto proposes something called the Dharmic Development Index, the DDI.
Right. This is the proposed replacement, or at least a necessary companion, to GDP. It breaks development down into these pillars like Prakriti, which is nature.
Samaj, community.
Swasthya, health, shiksha, learning, and ahar, which is food.
And these aren't just vague vibes, right? They aren't just feelings. They have specific numbers attached.
Oh, very specific. For Prakriti, or nature, the metric isn't money spent on environment. It's AQI good days per year. The target is 250 days. That's a hard number you can track.
That's an outcome.
For Samaj, or community, they suggest measuring public space per capita, aiming to move from the current, kind of cramping, 0.9 square meters to 5 square meters.
I love the health metric. It's not about how many hospitals we built. It's primary health center wait times. Target, 25 minutes.
It shifts the focus from output, what the government spends, to outcome.
What the citizen actually experiences.
It doesn't matter if you spend $1 crore on a clinic if the doctor isn't there and the wait is 4 hours.
There's a section in the source that describes a fantasy budget speech based on this DDI. I think this visualizes it perfectly. So instead of the finance minister standing up and reading out lakhs and crores and fiscal deficits,
they promise time. Imagine a budget speech where the minister says, next year, our goal is to give you back 15 hours per month that you currently lose in traffic.
Or we will give your children 60 more days of clean air.
We will restore 5% of degraded farmland.
We will eliminate counterfeit seeds. It changes the relationship, doesn't it? It treats the budget as a contract for quality of life, not just an accounting exercise.
And that is the core shift the manifesto is calling for. It's demanding that we stop being impressed by big numbers, trillion-dollar economy, and start demanding better mornings.
Speaking of demanding, this brings us to the now what section. Because listening to this, it's easy to feel a bit cynical. Great ideas, wonderful philosophy, but politicians will never do this.
They just want to win the next election. Yeah.
But the source says citizens are not powerless.
No, and it offers a remarkably practical toolkit. It says democracy isn't just voting once every 5 years. It's vigilance every 90 days. We are too passive between elections.
Okay, let's look at the toolkit. Step 1, demand the life quality statement.
This is about changing the conversation with your local representative. When an MP or MLA comes campaigning, don't just accept the flyer. Don't ask how much money they brought to the constituency.
Ask for outcomes.
Yes. Ask, I don't want to know the expenditure. I want to know why the tree cover in my ward didn't increase. Or, I want to know why the water isn't clean.
You shift the metric on them. Step 2 involves a specific law. Weaponize the RTI, the Right to Information Act.
This is such a powerful tool that's vastly underused for local issues. The source suggests filing quarterly requests. How many trees were planted? How many survived?
What is the average learning outcome in the local government school?
If you ask these questions privately, they get ignored. If you ask them through RTI, they are legally required to answer. It creates a paper trail of accountability.
And then step 3 is to make that data public, the ward scorecard.
Imagine if you took that RTI data and just made a simple one-page graphic. Here is our ward's scorecard for this quarter.
And share it on the neighborhood WhatsApp group.
Or the Resident Welfare Association meeting. Post it on the community notice board.
That would cause a stir. The RWA WhatsApp groups are usually just people complaining about parking.
Exactly. Turn that energy into data. The source says, when 10,000 citizens in a constituency start tracking the same 10 numbers, politicians pay attention.
Because politicians are essentially market researchers.
They respond to what the customer is shouting about. If we only shout about religion or caste, that's what we get. If we shout about air quality and wait times, eventually the supply will meet the demand.
It also suggests forming budget accountability circles, neighbors just meeting every quarter to compare notes. It's basically a neighborhood watch, but for the budget.
It turns governance into a spectator sport, where the spectators actually have a whistle. It empowers the citizen to say, I am watching and I am measuring.
I want to close by looking at the vision the manifesto paints for the future. It's easy to get bogged down on the problems, but the source describes Rajesh and Ananya 5 years from now, if these changes happen. It paints a picture of 2031.
It's a beautiful picture. It's 6:30 a.m. again. Rajesh wakes up, and the water is flowing from the tap clean, tested, reliable, no tanker alarm. The watershed management worked.
Ananya slept through the night because the air quality was 52, breathable. And she walks to school on a shaded footpath because the Sacred Groves initiative increased the urban canopy.
And notice the details about the school. It's a government school, but it has high learning scores. And the curriculum. It teaches quantum physics and the Gita. It honors that balance.
It's teaching life skills, not just rote memorization.
Exactly.
Rajesh's commute is 28 minutes on a metro that runs on time. His breakfast is made from wheat grown on Ramesh's healing soil.
Because the subsidies shifted to organic carbon and regenerative farming.
And crucially, the manifesto notes. Rajesh still pays taxes, but now he gets what he paid for. He doesn't feel cheated. He feels invested.
That's the dream, isn't it?
It is. The source wraps up with a very powerful statement that sums this all up. A budget is not an Excel sheet. It is a promise.
It really is. And right now, for many, that promise is broken. Not because India lacks money. We are a wealthy nation in many ways.
And not because we lack talent.
Not at all. We have some of the smartest engineers and thinkers in the world. But maybe because we lack the courage to redefine what development actually means.
It challenges the listener and us to think about Viksit Bharat, developed India. It cannot just be a skyline of glass and steel while the ground beneath it is dry and the air around it is toxic.
No. As the manifesto says, true development must be a system that delivers water to every tap, air to every lung, and dignity to every classroom. It must be a nation where your taxes fund your comfort, not just someone else's construction contract.
It's about restoring the Dharma, the balance, to our development. So here's our question for you to chew on as you go about your day. If you had to write a life quality statement for your own neighborhood, what would be the top 3 metrics?
Not the money spent, but the change you want to see.
Would it be the number of birds you hear in the morning, the number of minutes you wait for a bus, the safety of the sidewalk? Think about what your personal Dharmic Development Index looks like.
Because until we can define the morning we deserve, we're probably not going to get it.
That's it for this deep dive. Demand the morning you deserve. We'll catch you in the next one.
Stay curious.